Coming up on episode 220 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Rivian R1T, the Mercedes-Benz EQS 450 Plus, the Nissan Pathfinder, Ford Maverick XLT, Ford's Eluminator crate motor, Rivian goes IPO, and much more, all coming up next. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. This is episode 220 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abu-Al-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland, and let's go with an outlet I just started writing for. Let's say Motor One.
And I'm Roberto Baldwin, and this week I'll be TechCrunch. The crunchiest of techs.
The crunchiest of tech. No smooth tech, just crunchy tech.
No, just crunchy tech. Like a delicious granola.
Granola
technology.
All right. Nicole, what do you got?
The vehicle I was driving yesterday, I can't talk about yet.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. I mean, you guys know it exists.
We'll talk about that one next week.
We'll talk about the Jeep Grand Cherokee next week because that's why I was out driving Moab. But the vehicle I have this week, I've only just gotten today, which makes it a little hard to talk about my full drive experience in it. They parked a Nissan Pathfinder in my driveway this afternoon, which I actually drove on the launch program a little while back. So I've already had some time to drive it. It's neat. It's a nice. It's weird having just been in another big SUV, going from that one to this one. This is definitely more affordable. It has some off-road chops, but it's not something you're going to go rock crawling in. This is like a family hauler. I'm pleased with it. I mean, it's a solid upgrade from what it was in the previous generation. So I think they made good moves forward. One of the things I love about it is the center row, the second row, if you have the captain's chairs, the center console, it completely lifts out. You kind of just reach back and you can do it because they're like, well, you can just reach back from the front seat. I'm like, well, sure you can, 6-foot engineering dude, but can I reach it? So I reach back there and you can, it's not like you have to dislocate a shoulder to reach it. You really can reach back there and just pull it right out. So it's a good choice for that, the family that wants the extra seating, that wants a little bit more in an SUV, but doesn't necessarily want to break the bank by spending an absolute fortune to get a car. But you know what? I'm a fan of Nissans. I think a lot of people aren't a fan of Nissans. They think they're sort of, are you guys fans of Nissan? I feel like sometimes people just sort of harp on that the quality isn't good enough. And I actually I think they're good. For the price that you're paying for a Nissan, I think you're getting a good deal.
I'm a fan of the Nissan Kicks.
There's a lot of value there.
Yeah. You're a fan of what? The Kicks?
Yeah.
The Kicks is the best Nissan so far, still.
I like the Kicks.
I think it's, for the price, what you're getting, it's a good little car. It's a great little first car. It's a great second car. It's just a nice car if you need something small to get around town and still has that little, I think with the Kicks and as they're sort of the rebirth, I think, of Nissan, because I think for a long time everything was super old and super boring and super not great and super in all the rental fleets. I think they're getting up there.
They've eased that, haven't they? Stopped. I think they've stopped with the rental fleet thing now. But I think the thing with Nissan is that they're really good. They're a good value proposition. Like this one, there are 4 trims you got that you can do 4-wheel drive. The base trim starts at $35,310. That's not a bad price. That's reasonably affordable. It's not going to require you to take out a second mortgage. When you get up to the top trim, even with that, you're only at, I believe it's $48,000, which again, it's getting up there, but that's less than you'll pay for the base model of many a 3-row vehicle. It's still pretty affordable.
That's kind of like the same price spread as a Hyundai Palisade or Kia Telluride.
Right. So it's so it comes in an affordable thing. Power, it's got a 3.5 liter V6, 284 horsepower, 259 pound-feet of torque, and it gets a new transmission this year. It has a 9-speed automatic, which It's so funny. I remember when I first started doing this many years ago in the dark ages, I was like, I don't get it. Who cares whether it's a 5-speed or a 6-speed or a 7-speed or a 150 speed? I don't care. And like it didn't. And now having driven, where you're like, oh, like it. You don't realize how much of a difference the transmission makes in how a car drives until you've actually had the chance to say, oh, here's an old one. Here's something with only a 5-speed, and here's your 9-speed, and oh, that's the difference. It makes for a very smooth, even power delivery. So you get rid of those sort of like, you don't feel the shifts as hard as you would in other cars. This one's really good. It's actually very smooth, which is sort of what you want in a vehicle that's just basically, this is a family car or family SUV. You're going to be taking your family around. You're not, it's not a race car. It's not going to be climbing over mountains. It's something you want to be comfortable with for kids, for you driving around, and it nails it on that. It really does. So I am a fan of the Pathfinder. I think it's good. It's got good room for cargo. It has a good range of standard safety features. So yeah, I give an A+ to the new 2022 Nissan Pathfinder.
Okay, I have an assignment for you before the next time we gather together.
Okay.
And I want you to go into that center console, that second row center console.
Oh God, yes.
Fill it up with all the sort of typical detritus that you would find in a family hauler after a few months of use.
So I need to find a couple of half-eaten like chocolate bars or something, some tissues, some random hair ties. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, all the usual stuff. And then get back in the driver's seat and pull out that center console and see what happens. See if stuff falls out all over the place.
I get that. Okay, so if you're someone who just like tosses all the random in there, but I think, you know what though? I think if you're someone who's going to be removing that center console, it's not something like, oh, I'm removing it today, but I'm not, like, you're probably doing that. Like, you're probably, like, you would know that you're going to do that. It's not just like an on the fly thing, so you have to have a little bit more care with what you store in there.
Well, except,
don't be so sloppy,
you
Sam.
You can pull it out from the driver's seat.
You could, but don't be so sloppy, Sam. Be nice and neat and tidy.
Well, I'm not anymore because my kids are grown and out of the house. But, I remember what it was like to have young kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But, it's...
If you put a couple of kids in that second row in those captain's chairs, that thing is inevitably going to get filled up with all kinds of stuff.
Okay, see, but well, my kids are older now too. They're not at the age where I have to worry about all that stuff. But I was still the mom who had everything so tidy and neat in her car, except for the McDonald's toys that always littered the floor. But like the console and stuff, like everything was nice and neat and organized. I had a little Ziploc baggie with napkins, a little Ziploc baggie with extra straws.
Wow.
I was that.
It's a good thing I didn't show you the interior of Julie's car when you were here.
Would I have been horrified? Yeah, no, but that would be true if you had a lot of stuff in there. And and even with the one hand thing, if you decide to put an anvil in there or something, you're not going to be able to lift it if you pack it full of stuff. But if you're just, using it for light stuff and you're more organized than Sam is, it's going to be just fine.
Well, my car is organized because it's so small. There's nowhere to put it.
There's no storage. Yeah, you can't store anything in it, so it's all good.
That's right.
Now we know why you bought it. The truth comes out.
Exactly.
It's like if you buy smaller.
Okay.
If you buy smaller plates, you eat less food. It's that sort of thing. Like if you buy a big plate, you're like, well, I got to fill this with food. If you buy a smaller car or a smaller plate, you put less stuff in there.
Less food in it. So
yes.
I like that theory applied to cars. That works.
Yeah. If you have less room, you can put less crap in your car.
Automatically keep a tidy car. Just don't get anything with storage.
Don't get any storage because you're just going to put
storage.
stuff in it.
You're just going to put stuff in there. It's going to be a mess when you lift up that console. Get a Miata. Actually, as is the thing. The answer to everything is Miata. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. Robbie, what have you been driving?
Stuff.
Okay, moving along.
I wrote some stuff. So I finally got a chance. I got a very small, window of time in this vehicle, but I finally got a chance to drive the Rivian R1T, their electric pickup truck.
Yeah.
They're having like a drive first mile program here in the Bay Area where potential buyers or current I guess deposit holders. I don't know, people who are buying the thing. They can go out and they can drive it for about 30 minutes on sort of like on an off-road course. There's some just regular dirt roads, but also you can go up a steep hill, down a steep hill. It was really muddy because it's been raining. I'm going to say, whenever you get into a vehicle from a new automaker, there's always something that's not quite, that's a little off because it's new. They don't have decades upon decades upon decades of experience building vehicles. This is the first time, so the first time you do anything, there's probably going to be some issues. I was really impressed at how well put together the vehicle was. I was impressed how well it drove. Again, I only had like 30 minutes in it. I was impressed. It has those four. It's all-wheel drive, and every wheel has its own little motor. And the torque vectoring was great. It has the like one pedal driving, and they had it on a steep hill with some mud. And if there was just enough of a rut, I could get it to just sort of stop without using the brake, which is nice. So if you've ever done any off-roading and you're going down a steep hill, you know that you can't stomp on the brake because then you'll just slide down. And once you start sliding, like, well, there you go. All bets are off. So then you're always sort of feathering the clutch and trying to like keep it in first, trying to slow down and kind of back and forth between the brake and the clutch, brake and clutch, brake and the accelerator, just sort of to adjust your speeds. More and more vehicles now have a descent feature that actually slows the vehicle down using the engine. But it drove really nice. It was comfortable. There was room in the front and the back. They had like that tent set up thing, so I got inside the tent for a little while in case I would want to go over landing. And then they had the big stove, the pull-out stove. And
I always think those are so cool.
It's very cool, but it's also
I have no need for it. Like, when would I ever need that? But I'm like, that is so cool.
It's a very expensive. I think what is the price? Hold on, I found it out.
Oh,
it's
God,
like
$5,000, I think.
Yeah, it's like $5,000. What is it? Yeah, it is. It's $5,000 for the camp and for the little camp kitchen.
Yeah.
I guess if you're going camping all the time, or you're going to use it all the time, I guess it's worth it. It's very expensive. It's impressive. It's like it has a little like tub and a little sink, and you get water, and you have it's all very nice and impressive. But $5,000, that's more than like a stove in your home. And I know you can take it places. Unfortunately, you can actually take it out.
So the stove in your home is not portable. I can't just like wheel that into my truck. So that's worth
you could though. You just like plop it on top,
premium.
Plug it in, get an electric stove, just plug
right
it, put it in the bed.
Just get a dolly, haul it out of the kitchen,
haul it
roll
out,
it out, stick it in the back in the bed.
Totally easy, totally the same.
I just saved you $4,100.
Thank you.
But what is nice is I found out, I'm like, can you just take that thing off and then just have the sliding gear shuttle? Can you just have this gear shuttle? And they're like, oh, yeah, you can take this. So if, the months at a time you actually don't need to be hauling around a kitchen, you can take it off and just have the gear shuttle. You put things in, it slides into. Overall, I think I'll have a better idea of how much I like it or don't like it once I get more than 30 minutes of time behind the wheel. But I was impressed. It felt nice. Again, especially with these events, especially when you're trying to get people to buy it, you're going to bring the best one you have. You know what I mean? We have 10 of them, and 8 of them are the best ones we have. So let's bring those over. And when it comes down to actually building and manufacturing, and this is the issue that Tesla always seems to run into, is like once you have to make a bunch of them, that's when, panel gaps and issues with things falling off and whatnot. And again, new company. We'll see how it sort of shakes out. But overall, I was impressed.
Cool.
And then I am currently driving the Mercedes EQS 450 Plus.
Ooh, plus.
Plus.
That makes it better.
I drove this vehicle and the 530?
No. About July or
580.
August,
Yeah, I drove this vehicle and the 580 version, the all-wheel drive version, in Switzerland a while back. Yeah, July sounds about right. So this is the less powerful, I guess you want to say, rear-wheel drive version of the EQS. So the starting price is $102,000, which isn't cheap, but still cheaper than an S-Class, which is sort of insane. The version I was driving, $122,000. Anything Mercedes, BMW, once you start adding things onto it, it gets very expensive very quickly. 350 miles of range. Which is nice. It supports plug and play. I went to the Electrify America thing. I plugged it in. It just started charging. Yay! I didn't have to do anything, and I didn't have to use my Electrify America account. And so that was really nice. It is. I think it drives better than the S-Class because it has an EV powertrain. And so that means you reduce vibration. You get rid of any sort of extra sound. It's all gone because you just have this nice, smooth EV powertrain. It's the rear-wheel drive version. It's not that I don't think most people need all-wheel drive in an S-Class unless you live somewhere cold. Maybe it's going to snow. And this one does have the gigantic hyperscreen, which is the most expensive option for this vehicle, and it is $7,230.
How much is it? Wait.
$7,230. Now, and within the screen, there are 3 displays. There's your dash cluster display, there's the infotainment touchscreen display, and your passenger way over on the other side gets a 12.3-inch display as well. These are OLED displays. They look beautiful. It has all the fun lights that Mercedes-Benz has now, all the sort of LEDs and stuff inside the car, so at night it feels like you're in a rave.
I like that description.
What is funny is that passenger screen, so me and my wife are driving to do whatever, and she's like pushing buttons, and you're like, oh, there's a browser. So she tries to use the browser. You can't use the browser unless the car is in park.
Even on the passenger screen?
Even on the passenger screen.
Is the passenger screen like a privacy thing? Like, can the driver see it or just the passenger?
Like, if I look way over there, I could see it.
Like,
but
have you driven the Grand Wagoneer that has that screen? Like, you can, unless you're like in the lap of the passenger, you can't see it in a Grand Wagoneer.
Oh, because it has the sort of
like you have to be like.
No, they don't have the sort of tinting. They don't have
because you could be distracted.
I guess,
Roberto,
but
it's terribly distracted by her searching the internet.
She can like adjust the media.
What can the passenger do?
You can do the media. You can do navigation. You can do all these things that you can kind of do if you just look left to a few inches. And
it's a lot. I mean, just think about that. Look straight ahead and move your eyes to the left. That's a lot of work. Like, ugh. I feel like I have to work out looking to the left right now.
Especially when you're in the passenger and you have so many other things you should be doing.
So many things you have to focus on. It's like now I have to move my eyes left.
So we're driving to we're going to go buy records because we're those people now. We're going to go buy some records, and my wife's like trying to get. She's like, "Well, this is just dumb." She's all because I can just get online with my phone. Why? She's like, it was just a bigger screen, and now we're parked. I'm getting out of the car. I'm not hanging out in the car. I'm like, yeah. So there you go. That's what the passenger screen does. I think there's.
Okay. Well, you're selling that. I really want that $7,000 option. It's going to be hard to say no.
It's sort of a weird thing. I'm going to test out some more. I think those screens in the back are cool because then you can adjust the navigation and the media and all that stuff because you can't reach the front. That makes a lot more sense when those screens are in the back. Yeah. When it's the passenger screen and it almost mirrors what's happening in the screen that's just a few inches to the left of it. And then you can't use the one thing that you can do on it that you can't do on the regular screen when you're driving. It's like, okay. It does have a giant compass though all the time. When there's no one there, like the default is just a giant compass, so you can see which way you're going. So I end up looking over there. I'm like, I'm going southwest at 12 degrees or some.
Well, that'll make it easier when your GPS does stupid things that's saying like head north on Main Street. And I always think to myself, if I knew which direction north was here, I probably wouldn't need to be using you right now.
Exactly.
That drives me nuts.
So I assume that means that the passenger also can't watch a video on that screen while the car is in motion, right?
Probably not. I haven't gotten to that point yet in my testing, but I'm pretty sure you cannot. If you can't just surf the web on there, I don't think they're going to let you watch a video of cat videos, I guess. So.
Cats? Oh, you mean like random cats? I'm like, who watches Cats? I'm thinking the musical. I'm like, really?
The movie Cats. That's all that's available in the new Mercedes-Benz EQS. You're either watching cats or you're watching nothing. That's it. That's all you get.
Cats and that's it.
Cats and that is it. Yeah, no, I like the car. I liked it in Switzerland. I like it now. I'll have a review of it on Engadget in like a week or two. I don't know. Just depends on how long it takes them to edit the video. And bucks.
Yep. All right. I had the 2022 Ford Maverick XLT hybrid in cyber orange. I had it for a whole week, and quite a few of my neighbors were surprisingly interested in this. In fact, my next door neighbor on one side already has one ordered. It's scheduled to be built next week. They got an XL, the base model. So it's the absolute stripped down version of it, which means they don't get any cruise control in it. The one I had was the XLT, and in general, this is the one that typically, the mid-level trim is usually the sweet spot anyway for pretty much any vehicle. If you're going to buy something, because it's usually got all the equipment you really want on there, and it's usually still a pretty reasonable price. In the case of the Maverick, that means that the XLT starts at where'd it go here? It starts at $22,280 as the MSRP, plus the $1,495 delivery charge, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Wait! How much?
It's $1,500 for delivery.
$1,500, and you live like down the street from Maverick.
He should get a discount.
Well, no, actually, the Maverick is built in Hermosillo, Hermosillo, Mexico, with the Bronco Sport.
All right,
but
still $1,500.
It doesn't matter if you live in San Diego.
That's ridiculous.
We've talked about this before. The delivery charges.
What's the highest delivery charge we've come up with since we've been obsessing about delivery charges?
The Wagoneer at $2,000.
$2,000.
Because the Grand Cherokee is $1,795, so I figured that had to be pretty up there too.
Yeah.
$1,500. You could fly to Mexico and drive home and save money. And they
spend less on airfare and gas than ours.
Except they still charge you the delivery charge even if you get it from the factory.
Boo! What's the point?
So this is something they need to change. They need to force automakers to include the delivery charge in the MSRP. I mean, if it's not optional, don't bother breaking it up.
Has anyone ever talked? I mean, I honestly have never asked this question. Is it just a way of getting extra cash, or is there a stated reason for why delivery charges? Has anyone ever asked an OEM why they're getting so high? I haven't. I'm gonna now. But have either of you guys ever asked?
I have. I mean, they will tell you, that it used to be that back in the day, long ago, that the delivery charge actually it did vary depending on how far you were from the factory.
Did it really?
For example, this was back up until the early 90s.
No kidding.
For me, if I was getting a truck from the Ford Rouge plant, the delivery charge might be $300. But if that same truck was being delivered to California, it might be $1,500 or $1,000, whatever. But somewhere in the mid 90s, I think they changed it and just basically figured out, okay, here's what the average charge is across the board. We're just going to charge everybody the same. But what they should have done is, when they did that, just roll it right into the MSRP. Because if you can't opt out of it, then just put it in the price of the car.
Yeah.
That's how much it costs. There's no it's not like, hey, I'm not paying this delivery charge at the dealership, and they're like, yeah, you are.
Yeah, you want a car, you are.
So the truck I had the Cyber Orange paint, which is $495 option. And I think it's definitely worth it. Well worth it.
I'm on the fence if it's worth it.
You'll never miss your car
I like that paint color.
You'll never miss it in the parking lot.
That's true.
You'll always find it in the parking lot. It'll always stand out among the sea of silver and gray cars.
Yeah.
And like the F-150 I had a few weeks ago, once a year, you are so seasonally appropriate driving around in a pumpkin.
Yeah. You can always find your car.
Yeah. This also had the floor mats, the Copilot 360 package, which is $540, and the $500 spray and bed liner. All told, including that delivery charge, it came to $25,440, which I think is still quite a reasonable price. This is a much more reasonable sized truck for the vast majority of people. If you're not towing a big camper trailer or a boat, this is probably all the truck you really need. And this one had the hybrid powertrain. It's front wheel drive. I took it out on a mileage run. I averaged 41.5 miles per gallon with this thing.
Wow.
Nice.
So, 25 grand, 40 miles per gallon. You can't beat this. It's actually a really good bargain.
Sam,
And if you get the XLT, you do get cruise control.
Have you driven the Santa Cruz?
I did drive the Santa Cruz during the Mama Rally a couple of weeks back.
So Santa Cruz or Maverick?
And
Dun, dun, dun.
yeah.
I think I would personally probably go with the Maverick.
Okay.
Especially at the base price point. The Santa Cruz has some extra features. The Santa Cruz starts at 25,000 and goes up from there. But they don't have a hybrid version right now. So the base version, the base front wheel drive 2.5 liter. I think it's rated about 26 miles per gallon. So if you're concerned about fuel costs, the Maverick is a lot more fuel efficient. The Santa Cruz is certainly more stylish. It's a little less trucky looking, and it's basically a Tucson with a bed. With the back end cut off of it, and a bed. They're both really good. I think it basically comes down to, kind of what you're looking for in terms of design. If you want something more stylish looking, I think the Santa Cruz is definitely an excellent choice. You're not going to go far wrong with either one of them. The Maverick is so much more fuel efficient, and it's got some neat touches, a lot of nice little touches, like the way the door handles are cut away. The door armrests are cut away.
Oh, I love
so
that.
you can put in tall water bottles in the doors. The notches in the bed, so you can install stuff, either, buying accessories or making your own accessories, and Ford gives you all the instructions to build your own bike racks and things like that. So there's just a lot of nice little touches. And also the storage inside under the rear seat. You can flip up the rear seat and there's a big storage, hidden storage bay under there. So you can put all kinds of stuff in there too. So just, it's really well thought out. It's the ride quality is, it's not plush. I wouldn't call it plush. It's not bad, but it's a little bit stiff over some bumps, but it's fine. It's acceptable. I've driven a lot worse. So, I think if you're looking for, something that's a really good value and you want extra utility, I used it. I had done some tree trimming and I had a whole bunch of brush sitting in my yard that I was just waiting to get a truck to haul it out to the township compost site. I was able to stuff all that stuff into the bed there and take it out there. It's great for things like that, those kinds of jobs. Another nice detail is the tailgate, because it's a smaller truck. So it's not wide enough to put a 4x8 sheet of plywood in between the wheel wells, but it will fit in the bed above the wheel wells. But what you don't want to do is stick, a sheet of plywood or drywall in there, that's on top of the wheel wells and leaning down towards the back, with the tailgate out. So they have, you can take the cords for the tailgate, you can take them off the regular pins and put them on two higher pins. So the tailgate basically sits up is angled at like about a 40-degree angle, so that when you put something across the wheel wells and the tailgate, it sits flat, so it's not going to slide out the back. So just a lot of really nice, thoughtful touches. And you can also step up to the Lariat. To get that price point, that low end price point, though, this thing is, hard plastics everywhere. It's really well done plastics. They're nicely textured, and the colors are good. It looks good, but it's not luxurious. So, you can take a Maverick and max it out to, I think, almost $37,000 if you get the 2-liter EcoBoost and the towing package and all-wheel drive and all the other options. But really, I think in this mid $20,000 range is the sweet spot. If you want something more, I think there's other options at the higher end of the price range.
Oh, I thought you were putting your hand up for a question.
Oh, no, that was... Yeah, I have a question.
I have a question, Sam.
My dog fell asleep in my left arm, and now my left arm is asleep, so I've shuffled him to the right arm, and now I'm stretching the left arm. So continue.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I got on the Maverick.
I like the Maverick. I actually agree with you. I think that I feel like the Santa Cruz is a little bit more car-ish. It feels it a little, but that the Maverick, if you want a truck, but you don't want to have to do the great big truck and you want to be affordable. I love the ability to be able to do things like you said, you want to create a second level.
Put 2x4s in there.
2x4s and a piece of plywood. You have 2 levels and you can partition it off. And yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So I agree with you.
I'm very excited.
And you could probably fit about 20 bags of mulch in it.
We need to do mulch tests. We need to show up in the spring. We need to all get big cars, mulch, and count how many goes into whatever we're carrying.
The baseline will be the X-Type.
I'll get a pallet.
Get a pallet.
I'll get a pallet of mulch sitting in my driveway, and
we don't need all that
every
mulch.
week we'll use it to test the cars.
Just bring it back out, reload it. It'll be your workout for the week. Load the mulch in, load the mulch out. You're all done.
Yep. Yeah, perfect. All right. And some of the news items of the week. Last week, as we record, was the annual SEMA show. It was back live in Las Vegas again. That is the Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association. It's where they have all kinds of interesting aftermarket stuff. And one of the last couple of years, GM has shown off a couple of concepts where they took old GM vehicles. I think, was it last year they did an old early 70s K5 Chevy Blazer, and they put what they call their E-Crate and package in there. So the E-Crate package, which they have promised to put on sale, but I don't think have actually put on sale yet, is essentially taking a Chevy Bolt electric motor, battery pack, and power electronics and a wiring harness, and selling that as part of their aftermarket. Most manufacturers sell crate engines, and this was intended as an electric crate motor powertrain for doing resto mods for converting older vehicles to electric. This year, Ford did one. They took a 1978, I think, F100 pickup truck, and they put part of the powertrain, essentially put the powertrain from a Mach-E GT in there. So it was 4-wheel drive, had the 2 motors from the Mach-E GT, and they put together a battery pack with a few of the modules from the Mach-E. It's using the same modules, so 480 horsepower, 634 foot-pounds of torque. I think this truck had, forget here, I think it was about 140 miles of range or so. And they also announced that they were going to put their Eluminator electric crate motor on sale through Ford Performance, so you could order one. And I guess they had a limited number of them to sell in this first batch, and they sold out within a couple of days.
How many? Does it say in here how many?
3,900. They did not say how many.
Okay, I thought they had 3,900.
The price. Yeah, $3,900 for the motor, which if you compare that to buying something like a Coyote V8 motor, crate motor, I think those go for about $8,000. So it's not a bad price. And this is it's got a lot of torque. And if you wanted to do something like what they did with this F100, you'd need two of those to get that 480 horsepower. But what do you think about doing these electric resto mods?
I love electric resto mods for a lot of reasons. A, I want to do one. B, I own, my first car was a car from 1969, which meant that it broke down constantly, just all the time. Just like things would just break. It was dual carb, so I was always adjusting the carburetors, which is fun. And look at me, I'm a cool car guy. But then you're just like, I just want to go somewhere. I don't want to.
I just wanted to go.
I just want to do things. I was more excited about going places than working on the car. And so the idea of being able to take an old car and put an EV powertrain, battery, the whole shebang, drivetrain in there means that you don't have a lot of that sort of work that you have to do. I mean, you're still going to have to tweak it because, there's probably going to be some suspension tweaks you're going to be working on for months. And then if you're using the transmission, which most people are still using the transmission because it's easier just to hook up the electric motor to the existing transmission instead of trying to come up with a transaxle and blah, blah, blah. You're still going to have to, you still have to deal with that and make sure you don't destroy it by throwing, taking off in first gear all the time. Typically, you take off in second with these, but yeah, no, I think it's a fun way to take the desirability and design and sort of the fun of an old vehicle and making it a bit more, just sort of drag it into the future and making it so it doesn't break down quite as much. And most of the time, when you have these older cars, you don't drive them, you don't, a lot of people don't really drive them on long road trips, and you don't do all these like super long. That's what your Honda Civic is for, and your Accord and your RAV4. That's what that is for. These are for cruising around town and showing it off and
looking
it's
cool and going to a local little car show at the park or the parking lot at Target or something.
Yeah. And every once in a while doing burnouts and then wrecking your car at Cars and Coffee. Don't do burnouts at Cars and Coffee. That's my other thing.
Never do it. Because
Never
you're tempting fate. You're
going to
fate
wreck.
If you do.
You're going to wreck your car, and you're going to put a lot of people in danger, including yourself. But that all said, I think I really like the Resto Mod EVs. I'm a big fan. If you don't like them, that's cool. It's your car. Do what you want.
Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the GM project that they did this year for SEMA. It was a 1957 Chevy. It was one that was originally done. It was bought by Hot Rod magazine back in the mid 1960s for $250. It was called Project X, and so Hot Rod had done a bunch of stuff with it. And so this year, Chevy Performance and Motor Trend collaborated on taking that same car, the Project X car, and electrifying it. And they put a 340 horsepower motor in there. The original one had a supercharged V8 in there. And so they put a 340 horsepower electric motor in there and about 30 kilowatt hours of battery. So that 340 horsepower motor is one of the new Ultium motors. So this is one of the three motors you'll get in the Hummer EV. So if you get a Hummer, it'll have three of these in it. They put one of them in this 57 Chevy, which is probably more power than it ever had originally, by quite a large margin, and certainly more torque. This would make a pretty cool weekend cruiser.
Oh yeah, it's not going to have that big, loud V8 sound. I mean, that's what you're losing, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
No more blah, 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 blah. I mean, you can buy a stereo system and just make that noise.
You just
but-
pipe in like
just
the
install
equivalent of
some
like
speakers
pumping the
and-
sound into the cabin to make it
Yeah.
sound like your car has a better engine than it does, to give you fake exhaust in
Yeah.
there and all that stuff. Do the same thing.
Just do the same blah, 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 blah.
On the other hand, a lot of the cars you see cruising these days, have giant stereos in them pumping out, thousands of watts of bass, so you can't
yeah.
hear the engine anyway.
This is
Or
true.
or
If you're
everyone's
doing
done
that,
it.
it doesn't matter.
Everyone's done an LS swap. That's like the answer to every problem is like, well, what LS swap? Okay, which sort of like defeats the whole like, well, you got to keep it, you got to keep it like it was. Well, when you're throwing LS swaps in old
are
cars, you're not keeping it like it was. You're
Yeah.
doing something insane and fun, which is kind of the whole point of the car of old car culture. Is you're doing just this weird, insane thing that is part of who you are. Like none of these cars came out in purple or teal. They didn't have chop tops. They didn't have all these like weird things that people have done to hot rods over the last forever. And so this is just another element of that. Blub blub blub.
All right. Let's stick with electric for a moment. You mentioned driving the Rivian earlier. Earlier today, as we record, Rivian did their IPO. We don't usually talk about financial stuff,
The
but
monies.
they sold their shares at the initial IPO valuation was like $78 billion, which was
Good
just shy of
God.
what Ford is worth today. And they've barely delivered a handful of cars, a handful of trucks so far. They also raised $11.9 billion from selling those shares.
Billion.
Yes. So they got an extra $12 billion in the bank now,
Good
on top of
God.
whatever they had left over from their previous fundraising rounds.
Was that what they
I think
thought?
Rivian's
was
going to
that-
be okay for a while.
Was that what they expected for their IPO? Do you know what the expectation was?
Actually, it was more. It was more. They were originally projecting
So they
about
came
60
under.
billion as the valuation.
and they came in with 11 point.
over. Well,
Over.
no, 11.9 was that was their takeaway. That's what they take away from the table after selling the shares. The market
Okay.
cap they were projecting was going to be 60 billion. It
And
turned
they
out
came in
to be 78 billion instead.
78, so they beat it. Good for them.
So much
Yeah.
money for 12 cars.
And then it went up, went up from there. I think the last time I checked, so it closed up 29%. So
So if you had Rivian stock, you made a
it-
tidy little chunk of change today.
yeah, it bounced up $22.73 from its opening price. So yeah, it's doing okay. They'll be all right.
They'll be okay. Well, we'll see. I mean, hopefully they'll be okay. I mean,
You want to say they are, but you never know. Like I think they're going to be okay. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't have any sense that like they're in great trouble or their product isn't going to be what it should be. But it's the weird thing is like you watch companies sometimes burn through obscene amounts of money due to mission, like obscene amounts of money. Like how could they possibly? Oh wait, the money's gone. Okay, I guess
all
they're done.
gone. They did some crazy thing. It's always
Like some crazy stupid thing.
The people who are running the place are like, we got all this money. Let's just buy lots of. No,
Right, exactly.
no.
Don't
You
buy this stuff. Hold on to the money. You're going to need that money.
You don't need $15,000 chairs. You don't need a gold or diamond encrusted foosball table. You
But
need
yes,
you need
you're
factories
right.
to build cars, and you need to pay people a living wage. That's what you need.
Diamonds on everything, and sapphires and gold plating, gold-plated desks, gold-plated office chairs, gold-plated Keurig in the coffee room, all of it.
Buy the things you need to build the thing, and pay the people who are building it a good wage, and you'll be fine.
Oh, look at you being all reasonable.
I know. That's why I'm not in charge of any companies.
Well, no. If you had $11.9 billion in the IPO, then we would be confident that you would survive because you're not buying a gold-plated Keurig.
Not yet. Not.
Speaking of many
invest.
billions of dollars, there was a story in Automotive News. Actually, I guess it's from Reuters. They added up the total amount that's been committed in investments from automakers for EVs. 3 years ago, when they did this, their analysis showed that automakers that were planning on spending $300 billion. This is, all the automakers globally spending about $300 billion to develop EVs, retool factories, build battery plants, and so on. That number since 2019 or 2018 has climbed to $515 billion that they plan to spend this decade, which, given all the announcements we've heard about new battery plants and everything else, is not the least bit surprising. You guys have any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, it's surprising only in that, man, that's a big number. But the fact that it's a big number, not surprising. Like, that's where everything's going. That's where the investment's going to be. And that whether you want to deny the future and, have these super powerful ICE engines in your car forever, that eventually you're going to have to say bye-bye. So making that investment makes a heck of a lot of sense. It's just to show how much is involved in it, like that it's $515 billion is shocking. But to know they're doing it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, there's a billion reasons why they should be doing it, and $550 billion to make it happen.
Yep.
That's a lot of money, though.
And last one here is about Cadillac. I think earlier this year, or maybe it was last year, we talked about Cadillac had told their dealers, after they announced the Lyriq, that they were going to have to spend a bunch of money to equip their dealerships to handle EVs, for parts and for training and equipment and tools. And they told their dealers, look, we know that this is going to be a significant investment. It's probably going to be on the order of about $250,000 or more for every dealership to get ready for EV sales. And so they offered their dealers, all their dealers, a deal, basically.
A deal,
and said,
dealer deal.
If you don't want to make this investment, no problem. We'll buy back your franchise from you, and you can go sell something else or close up shop or whatever. And they offered them, I think, on average about $500,000 for their franchises. And earlier this year, they announced that about 20% of Cadillac's dealers, and this was, they started at 875 dealerships across the United States. They announced that about 20% of them were taking the deal and walking away. That number has now climbed to 1/3 of their dealers. As they go into 2022, Cadillac expects to have 560 dealerships instead of 875. So about 315 dealers are going away. But it's not actually probably going to make that much difference to Cadillac sales, because those remaining 560 dealers account for about 90% of Cadillac sales. So most of the ones that are selling back their franchises are probably dual dealerships with other brands, and they're just not selling very many Cadillacs anyway. It's going to be interesting. Even with 560 dealers, they still have, I think, quite a bit more than Lexus. I think Lexus has about 400 stores across the U.S. So it's, at least those dealers that are left will be ready to take on the Lyriq and other EVs starting next year.
Imagine you're the guy who owns the dealership who's decided he's going to retire, and then one day, like right before you announce you retire, Cadillac's like, "We'll give you $500,000 for your dealership." He's like, "Oh."
Right? You're like, and I'm done. How
I'm
long
out.
is this something where are dealerships still able? I know they said the numbers they gave were what they expected at the end of a year, I guess, but are dealerships still able to continue to take advantage of that and say, "Hey, you know what? We've been thinking about it. We're out." Or is that like the bleed has stopped, sort of? Like whoever's in is in now and whoever's out is out now?
I don't know. I suspect, that if there's still some that haven't made, I think most of them have probably made up their mind at this point.
Decided what they want to do.
Because
yeah.
The Lyriq's just a few months away.
So you have to have made a commitment or not.
And
yeah.
Yeah, I think. If there's some that still want to get out, I suspect that GM will probably say, "Fine, we'll buy you out."
I'm curious if in the end, even though, like you said, it's the higher volume dealers are the ones that are staying and the lower volume guys are out, but you wonder if it's going to end up being net truly better for Cadillac, because if you're getting rid of dealers that are smaller, that maybe aren't selling very much, that aren't great dealers, it might not necessarily have been creating the best customer experience for people who walked in who didn't end up buying a Cadillac at all and went somewhere else. And now if they do walk into a Cadillac dealership, it's the better ones that are left, so they're more likely to get a better, more premium experience and more likely to walk out with a Cadillac. I wonder.
Yeah, because there's 4 dealerships in your area, and one of them just is really bad at selling Cadillacs, and you go to that Cadillac dealer,
right?
And they're also like a Ford dealer, or they're also like a Hyundai dealer, or whatever.
Exactly.
And they're just like, well, I'm just going to go over there. As opposed to now there's only 3 dealerships in your area, and all 3 of them know how to sell a Cadillac, and you show up, and they're like, hey, and you walk out with the black.
So like, although they have less dealerships, but the ones that they're left with are actually more capable of selling the vehicles, more vested in selling the vehicles, and fewer dealerships, but our sales are not going to take the hit at all. I wonder how that'll shake out. We'll have to see.
Very interesting.
Yeah. All right. Let's answer some questions from the listeners.
Hello, listeners.
Let's start off with Andrew Pappas.
Hello, Andrew.
How do I time buying my last manual transmission car? Currently have a Focus SE. Looking at a GTI or a Civic as the last 2 reasonable options. I expect to be forced to go electric or hybrid, which will likely be auto only at some point. So when should Andrew time? When should he get his last manual transmission car?
I feel like
or at least his last new manual transmission car.
I feel like you got some time, Andrew. There's still a lot of manual transmissions. I mean, a dwindling number, but they're still out there. We still have a lot of gas vehicles out there. They're not. I feel like you could, so what the average age of a car is something like 11, 12 years old. I feel like for the next 12 years, we're still going to have cars with manual transmissions, and it'll be the good ones, like a GTI and a Civic, not like something that's not fun and sporty. I feel like you've got years. You could buy one today and then maybe like one more. I don't know how long you keep your cars for.
Yeah, I talked to somebody once about manual transmissions and the take rates and where the only sort of area where manual transmissions are likely to stick around for long term are the mid-level performance. The GTIs, the Miatas, the BRZs. The Civic, I think, is probably going to lose its manual transmission outside of the R. Quicker. Sooner rather than later, just because at some point the take rate on those isn't just
too low.
Yeah, it's going to be too low. So as long as you're fine, and if you're a fan of fun little hot hatches or fun little convertibles or something like that, I think the manual transmission is going to be around for quite a while. So I think if you're looking at like anything else though, I mean, even the 2 Series has lost its manual transmission, and that's a tough one right there. That one was like, oh.
Yeah, if it's a hot hatch, you've got plenty of time. If it's anything else, I wouldn't. It could be.
It's gonna, they're
long for this world.
Maybe a few more years for those.
Agreed.
Just people aren't. I mean, it's people just aren't buying them. That's all there is.
They can't keep them if no one's buying them, and no one's buying them.
Yeah. If 5% of the people are buying them, and they're like, well, why are we making all these cars?
Why do we have these?
Yeah. It's mostly like I said, the enthusiast vehicles.
Honda was the last one to offer a manual in a midsize sedan, and they dropped that from the Accord. Was it last year or 2019? And they've reduced availability of manuals in the Civic in the current generation. They'll be around for a few more years. I think, like you said, sporty cars like the Miata, BRZ, GR86, Mustang will probably continue to offer manual for probably, at least through most of this decade.
Yeah.
Or at least as long as those cars are in production. Like the Corvette, you can't get a manual in a Corvette anymore.
That's true.
Most of the high-end sports cars, you can't get manuals in anymore. Yeah. They're all DCTs or something like that.
You never think of you still have a hot hatch you can get a nice little manual transmission in, but if you want a manual in a super fancy expensive car,
you can't get it.
Good luck with that.
Well,
Somehow that that group has said kicked it to the curb and gone with, the dual clutch situation a lot more quickly than little hot hatch guys have.
I think the hot hatch people are actually better drivers, though.
You're probably right.
That's what it kind of comes down to. They're
Can you
Can you consider who can actually afford to buy the supercars?
That's true.
Someone in their teens and 20s, those kids are, they still want to run. And then they get their 30s or 40s and they still want to go fast.
Roberto, you were spot on with your car noises tonight.
I'm killing it.
You're killing it, man.
Killing with the car noises. But but once you get in your 30s and 40s and you want a BMW or you want a Lexus, but you want something still a little sporty, but you kind of don't want to shift gears anymore. You got the kid in the back. You got, the dog licking you got all these things going on. You just kind of want to get, at the end of the day, you still want to go fast, but you're just like, I just can't deal with, your left foot hurts from traffic.
You pull a muscle.
You're pulling your muscle, your knees.
My leg, it's hurting.
You're getting older. No, I understand why people move away from manual transmissions.
So as long as we have a group of younger folks who still learn how to drive a manual, we're good.
Yeah, teach your kids. I don't want to. I never want to see someone saying, "Oh, millennials don't know how to drive manuals," or Gen Z doesn't know how to drive. Hey, are you teaching them to drive manuals? No, then shut up.
So I try to teach my younger daughter,
kids.
And it was a torturous experience, and I never got a chance to teach my older daughter. But then some kid at college had a car with a manual transmission, and she learned how to drive one. I'm like, okay, well, that works for me.
See, I taught my wife to drive a manual transmission.
That's even better.
Her and her dad,
Right?
her dad and her, they tried and it didn't work out. I think parents teaching is well. But I taught my wife, and now she drives a manual transmission. Now she drives an EV. But she knows how to drive a manual transmission.
See, that's what matters.
We got the BRZ because she wanted a manual transmission fun car.
Aww.
So
There you go. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Next up from Coach Cabrera. It's frustrating watching companies continue to raise prices on EVs. What happened to making them affordable for the non-luxury buyer? They only seem to want to go to old tech and batteries like Tesla announced to make them affordable. Well, the only company that I've seen raise prices on their EVs is Tesla.
Yeah.
They just raised the prices on the Model 3 again last week, I think.
Yeah.
So I think the cheapest Model 3 now is something like close to $43,000 or $44,000.
Wow.
Not that they ever really sold the so-called $35,000 Model 3, but yeah, they've been steadily raising their prices. Most of the others, I have not seen any price increases. They've been holding steady. As far as I know, are you aware of any other price increases on EVs?
I haven't specifically seen that. Well, but you know what? Not out of line with what every other automaker does. If it's just you go from the 2021 Altima to the 2022 Altima, you might have a little price increase here or there, but it's not like it's jumped drastically. So from what I'm seeing, most of them are just kind of taking the average, like every year cars get a little bit more expensive, unless there's something, like they've offered something significantly more. There's crazy range, crazy interior. There's a reason for it, but not sort of arbitrarily. I feel like there's still a good range of affordable options out there. If you just want to get into one and you want it to be cheap, there's choices. And if you don't care and you have the money, there's choices at that end too. I'm not the choices you have with a gas engine, but you've got choices.
And there will
Kona
be a lot
went
more
down.
choices coming.
Did the Kona go down?
Yeah, we bought the Kona, and it went down right before we bought. Like the price went down, the new design came out, and we bought it like 4 days later. I'm like,
how much did it go down, Robbie?
Oh gosh, let me see the Kona Electric. Hold on, I think it was a couple thousand.
Oh, a couple thousand! I think you were saying like $450 or something.
Oh no. Price.
Wow, a couple thousand.
When GM launched the refreshed Bolt earlier this year, they dropped the price on that by $5,000.
Oh yeah,
price.
Yeah, there was drop in price.
Yeah, and there are other EVs coming in the next year or two that will be significantly cheaper. Like GM has promised an Equinox-sized crossover that should be priced around $30,000. That should maybe be up by end of next year or sometime in early part of 2023, I think, for that car. And there's other stuff coming. I don't think we've seen prices yet for stuff like the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Have they announced any pricing for that yet?
I don't remember pricing, but I bet we'll know we should know by the middle of December, I bet. So we got another month.
Yeah.
If it's not out, we'll know.
Because it's going to be going on sale. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That's not that far off.
So those will probably be starting somewhere in the like $35,000 to $37,000 price range. So there is stuff still out there. Aside from Tesla, nobody else has been really upping their prices by any significant amount. Now, there is one factor that could cause some price increases, and that is the price of lithium has almost tripled in the past year because of demand, and that could drive increases in battery prices. But aside from that, nothing else so far.
The Kona went down $3,000.
3,000. Wow.
$3,000. That's a good. But I think
and it's not like it's a super expensive car to begin with. That's a good chunk of money.
Yeah. So it went down 3,000. So yeah, they're going down. We still need a mid $20,000 EV. That's what we need, because anywhere in the 30,000 mark. That's a lot of money for a car. That's tough to sort of to for people who need to buy a car, and if $30,000 is tough, that means that's probably your only car. So we need cheaper cars. I think Volkswagen says they're working on it. Everyone wants to come out with a less expensive car. They just got to get battery prices down, and then the lithium thing is going to mess them up for a little while.
Yeah, that's going to screw everything up.
But they will come down as battery prices come down. And as, the economy of scale, blah, blah, blah. The more they build, the cheaper it gets to build them, blah, blah, blah. So they will come down. For the most part, most of the industry has been dropping prices on their sort of entry level, except for Tesla. The end.
Yeah.
The end.
All right. Next up from ZBM, or depending on where you're from, it might be ZBM. I'm trying to understand the automotive media's obsession with horsepower and torque. He says that as though there's some problem with being obsessed with horsepower and torque. Anyway, some of the most engaging vehicles I've owned were underpowered manual vehicles such as air-cooled VWs, early 80s diesels. I've since owned recent 911s and plug-in hybrids. Smiles and on-ramps survived and all. So what do you say to this comment about our supposed obsession with horsepower and torque?
I don't necessarily think it's an obsession, but I mean, if you're going to describe a car and its power, to have some kind of benchmark to say it is a powerful car or not. If I just say it's powerful, it gets on ramps well, I need more than that. The number gives you it lets you quantify. You can say all the things you want, but if you at least say, this is a 100 horsepower car, you have an idea of what you're looking at. If you say, this is a 700 horsepower car, that's at the higher end of the range. I think it just gives people a number, it just helps quantify it. We all like all the horsepower, but I don't think it's an obsession. I think it is truly a good way to sort of give consumers an idea of, are you looking at a sports car? Are you really looking at one, or is this just a sedan? It helps.
It's a consistent metric. Well, for the most part, because you also have to factor in weight, etc.
Which is what the rest of your story does. You say 700 horsepower, but it weighs a ton, or
9,000 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. So you quantify it all. Yeah, but I feel I'm going to say this: it's funner to drive a slow car fast than a fast car fast. That's all there is. Yes.
That's why the Miata
fast car slow.
Yeah. A Miata, the BRZ, the FR86, all those vehicles, they're great. They're wonderful cars. And people will continue to tell you that the Miata and the Scion and the BRZ, whatever you want to call it, they're underpowered, etc. But drive them. They're just so much fun to drive, and I think your enjoyment out of a vehicle doesn't always correspond with the idea that you need a lot of power to enjoy a vehicle. I think it's really comes down to the vehicle, because you can get a giant SUV with a ton of horsepower. Doesn't mean you're going to have fun driving it.
Right. And I think we all kind of say that, like what you just said, Roberto. People will say okay, sometimes it's not about the horsepower. This is the horsepower. It's speedy. It's quick. It moves. But good gravy, this is just fun to drive, and it's not the horsepower.
And you'll find that, despite the fact that we do frequently talk about power and torque, a significant proportion of automotive journalists do in fact own cars like Miatas, BRZs, 86s, older GTIs, even like second and third gen GTIs, or air cooled VWs, or a lot of older cars that don't have much power. It's always an adrenaline rush to get in something with 700 horsepower, and hear that big supercharged V8 roar. But the reality is, like you said, you can do that once in a while, but you can't do it all the time, and still be reasonably responsible on the roads,
Like how you
or risk losing your license. So it is kind of pointless to have that much performance.
It is, yeah, you do. I do
That
find
said, whenever I get an opportunity to drive something like that on the track, I do like to take advantage of it.
Yeah,
exactly.
the track, like whenever I get a supercar, and I have a supercar at home, it's just like, what am I doing? Like, what's the point? I mean, I can, you can only go up to a certain speed, because I'm not going to drive like a bat out of hell on public roads, because A, it's unsafe, and B, it's ridiculous. That's not what that car is for. If you're able to go to the track, then I'm like, oh, wonderful, I get to drive a Lamborghini on a track, or I get to drive, something amazing on a track. But in real life, like a lot of power, you're just doing a lot of power from one stoplight to another.
Mm-hmm.
How fast can you get to the next stoplight?
Not as much fun as it sounds.
No, it is not.
All right. ZBM also had another question. Said, I'd also like to hear your input in taking my interest in all things automotive and investing in it. Not my nest egg, but trying to take my interest and maybe make something out of it. Lucid, Rivian, not asking for financial advice, just interested in thoughts. I'm going to take a pass on this one.
Okay, here, I'll take a crack at it. Invest in the automotive things to which you find interesting and appealing. Do your own thing. Yeah, I can't give advice, investing advice, man. I'm going to tell you invest in something.
I feel like it's illegal for me to say something about investing advice.
I know. Can't we get fired and sued and yeah.
I don't have any holdings in any of those, actually in any individual companies, including any automakers or suppliers or anything else, because it would be, given my role as an analyst and the information I have, it would almost certainly be unethical and probably illegal. So I just don't even bother investing in anything.
I don't have any money with anybody. For ethics reasons, I have a 401k. I don't know what it's on. I don't know what I think.
Just some index funds.
I think there's some real estate stuff in there. I don't know.
You know what? It's one of those things. Somewhere in there could be in those giant 401ks something automotive, but you can't. We can't do that.
Yeah,
we can't do that. Sam, why'd you put this question in here? We can't do this.
This is
invest in what you like.
Just say that we can't do it.
Investments in the things you like, and we have no say in it.
Don't invest in Pogs.
If you think it's good, go for it.
Or Beanie Babies. Don't invest in Pogs or Beanie Babies. I hear there's
this company that just had an 11.9 billion IPO. Maybe look at them. No.
I don't know. Yeah, I think there's like SEC, there's insider trading, there's all this stuff that
how many laws would we break if we actually did that based on what the quote insider information we have?
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah.
And that was how we had the last episode of Wheel Bearings.
I'm sure there's somebody. There's that really crazy guy, Jim Cramer. Is that his name? With the buttons and the yelling and the. I don't know.
Is he the guy who yells and screams like, "This is what you have to buy this week"? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Is it Jim Cramer?
I think
it is Cramer. I think you're right.
I think that might be.
He's saying to watch him giving financial advice. Look what you've done, Roberto.
Just I don't know. Ask other people.
Ask other people, not us, who look too far in the industry to be able to give that kind of advice.
And I was certainly convinced that Tesla was never going to be worth $1,000 a share. So what the hell do I know, right?
Isn't it up at like 12 now too? I think it's like at 1,200 almost.
That was a couple of days ago. It dropped like 12% yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
last question comes from Daryl. Is Sam pleased with BMW taking away the touchscreen? Seriously, how does the chip shortage affect vehicle features this much, and will it devalue those vehicles in the secondhand market? So, for those who haven't heard, BMW announced the other day that on I think on the 3 Series and 5 Series, they were, for the foreseeable future, they were no longer going to have touchscreen capability. So for the last 6, 7, 8 years, BMW still had their iDrive controller in the center console, but they've also added touchscreen capability, so you can do it, you can interact with it however you want. Because of the chip shortage, they've stopped. They stopped putting in the controllers that enable the touchscreen. So now you have to interact with the iDrive controller, we've seen other manufacturers dropping other features, like GM, for example, recently said Super Cruise is not going to be available for a few months because of the chip shortage. There's been other features that have been dropped. It probably will have some effect on these specific models, resale values of these specific models. How much? I don't know. But yeah, if somebody's buying a used 2021 BMW, 3 years from now, and it doesn't have touchscreen capability in it, they might not want to buy it or not pay as much for it.
They're like, what is this, a Mazda? What's going on here?
What is this, a Mazda? It's just like a Mazda.
It's just like an older BMW.
I kind of wish they could have found, because touchscreens are so integral to like what people do now. Everything is a touchscreen. That's something people just, at this point, they just want or have. Like every car has some sort of touchscreen. So that was the choice. There's like, oh, so not another thing. I guess that's the chip they couldn't get. But I wonder how many of those they'll actually sell. I wonder if they're just like holding off on building them until people order them, and they're like, hey, sure, we can build you one, but you're not going to be able to touch the glass. You can still touch it, but nothing will happen. Nothing.
Yep. In some cases, depending on what the features are, manufacturers are going ahead and selling them without those features. Other stuff, they're just putting the cars in storage until they have the parts, and then they'll ship them. That's what Ford and GM have been doing with a lot of pickup trucks over the last several months. Mm-hmm. There's lots full of thousands of F-150s and Silverados scattered around southeast Michigan and other locations, just waiting for chips.
You got to spin up. That's what that person should invest in.
For this week.
Building a foundry. That person should invest in building a foundry.
There you go.
There you go. You're going to be
You're
going to be a bazillionaire. Just go out and build a foundry with that money you were going to use.
Yeah. It'll only cost you about $5 billion up front to build a foundry, but then you will have people banging your door down to get you to build them chips.
You'll make that money back in the first week. I guarantee it. I don't guarantee it. I don't know how that works. But you're going to make your money back pretty quickly.
All right. That's all we got for this time. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.